It looks exactly like every other penny you've ever ignored. Brown, small, ordinary. The kind of coin that rattles around in your cup holder, gets dropped into a jar, or disappears between couch cushions. But what if I told you that one of those pennies, a 1978 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, has been whispered about in collector circles as being worth more than a luxury home, more than a lifetime salary, even rumored to brush against seven figures? Most people would laugh. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because the greatest treasures are never announced. They hide in plain sight. Picture this. It's late at night. A collector sits alone under a desk lamp, turning a single penny over and over between their fingers. The date reads 1978. No mint mark. Nothing special at first glance. But something feels off. A detail that shouldn't be there. A flaw that shouldn't exist. And in that moment, everything changes. This is the story of that penny that in 1978, billions of Lincoln cents were struck by the United States Mint. Philadelphia produced the majority, and as was standard, those coins carried no mint mark. That detail alone makes the 1978 cent feel common, forgettable, invisible. But history has a way of bending rules. And sometimes, the most dangerous word in coin collecting is normal. Because buried within that ocean of ordinary cents are rare anomalies. Errors so subtle, so shocking, that most people spend them without a second thought. Here's where the tension begins. Collectors have long known that the late 1970s were a chaotic period at the Mint. Aging equipment, heavy production demands, dies pushed far past their intended lifespan. And when pressure meets fatigue, mistakes happen. Quietly, repeatedly, and sometimes, catastrophically. Double strikes. Off-center impressions. Die cracks that look like lightning frozen in copper. Letters that appear doubled, smeared, or ghosted. Dates that look like they're melting. Lincoln's profile showing signs of duplication, as if time itself glitched for a split second. Now ask yourself this. How many pennies have you actually examined? Most people never look past the date. But the collectors who do? They know the hunt isn't about the date. It's about the details no one else sees. One of the most talked about varieties tied to the 1978 no mint mark cent involves dramatic doubling. Not the cheap, machine-made kind, but strong, collectible doubling that jumps off the surface under magnification. The kind that makes seasoned experts stop talking mid-sentence. The kind that triggers authentication, grading, and whispered phone calls. And that's only the beginning. There are reports of 1978 cents struck on the wrong planchets, metal blanks intended for other denominations. Imagine a penny that weighs wrong, sounds wrong, feels wrong in your hand. A cent that shouldn't exist, but does. Errors like that don't just add value. They rewrite the coin's destiny. Then there are the condition freaks. Here's a truth most people don't realize. Rarity alone doesn't create massive value. Condition does. A flawless survivor from a brutal production year can be more valuable than a rarer coin that's been abused by time. Now imagine a 1978 no mint mark Lincoln cent with a dramatic error, preserved in near-perfect condition, blazing red luster, razor-sharp details, not a single mark to distract the eye. That's where the numbers get uncomfortable. Because in the upper atmosphere of elite coin collecting, prices don't behave rationally. They explode. Auction records and private sales have fueled legends, including reports of top-condition Lincoln cents with rare error combinations reaching into six figures. One widely discussed sale has been cited as high as $844,000 for an extraordinary example tied to the Lincoln cent family, igniting a frenzy of renewed searching across the country. Is every story verified? No. Is every claim guaranteed? Absolutely not. But here's the part that makes people sit up straighter. Every legendary coin sale started as a rumor, until it wasn't. The psychology of collectors is simple and dangerous. They chase what might exist. And when money, scarcity, and prestige collide, logic steps aside. Suddenly, a penny isn't a penny anymore. It's a lottery ticket you didn't know you were holding. And this is where the clock starts ticking. Because every year, fewer high-grade 1978 cents survive. They're spent. Scratched, cleaned, lost. The supply doesn't just shrink, it vanishes. Meanwhile, demand quietly grows as more people learn what to look for. Ask yourself a brutal question. What if the rarest coin you'll ever own already passed through your hands? What if it's sitting in a jar right now, inches away, The suspense deepens when you realize how many of these coins were overlooked for decades. For years, collectors dismissed the 1978 no-mint mark cent as background noise. Too modern, too common, too boring, and that blind spot created opportunity. Some of the most valuable error coins in existence weren't recognized immediately. They surfaced years later, when knowledge caught up to reality. When someone finally asked, "Wait, is that supposed to look like that?" That's how fortunes change, not with trumpets, with questions. And here's the twist that resets everything. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be connected. You don't need insider access. The entry point to this hunt costs 1 cent, that's it. Every penny you check is another chance. Every roll from the bank. Every forgotten change drawer. Every inherited collection you almost ignored. This isn't about greed. It's about awareness. Because awareness is what separates the person who spins a rare coin from the person who sells it. And the final act of this story doesn't belong to auction houses or grading companies. It belongs to you. Imagine the moment. You tilt a coin under the light. You notice something odd. A line where there shouldn't be one. A doubling that won't disappear. A weight that doesn't match. Your pulse quickens. You check again and again. This time, you don't dismiss it. This time, you know the story. You know that the most unassuming penny can carry a secret worth more than anyone would believe. You know that reported sales in the hundreds of thousands didn't come from luck alone. They came from someone who paid attention when others didn't. And maybe, just maybe, the next headline hasn't been written yet. Maybe it's sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to look closer. The next time you see a 1978 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, don't toss it aside. Don't assume. Don't underestimate. Because history has proven one thing over and over again. The coins that change lives are never the ones people expect. They're the ones people overlook.
Most people think a penny is pocket change, something you drop in a jar, something you ignore. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny minted nearly 50 years ago has been whispered about in the coin world as a potential 6-figure broken bar, even 7-figure sleeper? What if the next time you reached into a handful of loose change, your life could quietly change forever? Because tonight, we're talking about the 1976 mint mark Lincoln cent, a coin most Americans have seen, a coin most Americans have spent, and a coin that under the right circumstances has been linked to reported market values climbing as high as $844,000, a broken bar, and in rare conversations, even into the millions. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? That disbelief is exactly why this story matters. Picture this. It's the mid-1970s. America is celebrating its bicentennial spirit. The economy is shaky. Inflation is rising. The U.S. Mint is under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins as cheaply and quickly as possible. Corners are cut. Machines are pushed beyond their limits. Human eyes miss things they shouldn't, and that's when history tends to slip through the cracks. The 1976 Lincoln cent was struck in Denver, part of an enormous mintage meant for everyday use. Billions were made, and yet, hidden among those billions, collectors and error specialists have documented anomalies so strange, so rare, that they've fueled decades of speculation, bidding wars, and late-night treasure hunts at kitchen tables across the country. Here's the first twist. Most people think rarity comes from low mintage. Not this time. This coin's power doesn't come from how many were made a broken bar but from how many were made wrong. Ask yourself this. What happens when a coin meant to be struck on one type of metal is accidentally struck on another? What happens when dies clash, shift, or double at exactly the wrong moment? What happens when quality control blinks for just a second? You get mistakes that were never meant to leave the mint. Some 1976 cents have been found with dramatic off-center strikes, where Lincoln's face appears to slide off the coin as if reality itself glitched. Others show strong double lettering Liberty and In God We Trust appearing ghosted, thick, and unsettling, like echoes frozen in copper. These aren't minor flaws. These are unmistakable errors that experienced collectors stop breathing over. But then there are the stories that make even seasoned professionals pause. Coins reportedly struck on the wrong placket. Coins with weights that don't match standard copper-plated zinc. Coins that ring differently when dropped. Coins that shouldn't exist, a broken bar but do. And here's where the suspense tightens. Because every time one of these anomalies is authenticated, the market reacts, quietly at first, then violently. Private sales, closed-door auctions, collectors who don't talk much, a broken bar but bid aggressively. Prices jump from hundreds to thousands, from thousands to tens of thousands, and in extreme, elite-grade cases where condition is flawless and the error is undeniably, numbers start to feel unreal. 6 figures, and then that number everyone whispers, $844,000, a reported sale figure tied to an ultra-high-grade Lincoln cent with extraordinary characteristics, certified, verified, and chased by deep-pocketed buyers who understood exactly what they were looking at. Was it just the coin, or was it the story, the timing, the rarity, the perfect storm? That's the question that keeps people searching. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people would have spent that coin without a second glance. Let that sink in. The difference between a penny and a fortune often comes down to awareness. Now, let's talk condition. Because this is where dreams are made. A broken bar and broken, a circulated 1976 cent is usually worth face value. No magic there. But a coin that has survived untouched, one that never scrapped against another penny in a cash register drawer, one that still carries its original luster, sharp strike, and clean surfaces, that's when the multiplier turns on. Professional grading services don't just look at age, they look at perfection. And when perfection collides with rarity and error, values don't rise gradually, they explode. That's why you'll hear phrases like top population or finest known. Those words are gasoline on a fire. Because when only one or two examples exist at that level, the next buyer doesn't ask, is this expensive? They ask, how badly do I want to own this? And some want it badly enough to pay what others would call insane. But there's another layer to this story, one that makes it even more urgent. Many of the most valuable error coins weren't discovered by professionals. They were found by regular people, a retiree sorting through rolls from the bank, a man checking his change after buying coffee, a woman cleaning out a drawer that hadn't been opened in decades. No vaults, no treasure maps, just curiosity. And that leads to the most dangerous assumption of all of that. If something like this existed, it would already be gone. History says otherwise. Even today, new discoveries are still being authenticated, new varieties are still being debated, and coins from the 1970s are only now reaching the age where original rolls are being opened by heirs who have no idea what they're holding. Here's the cliffhanger. What if the next record-setting 1976 cent hasn't been found yet? What if it's sitting in a coffee can in someone's garage? What if it's in a jar labeled miscellaneous change? What if it's already in your house? That's not fantasy. That's probability. Because billions were made, but only a microscopic fraction contained the right combination of error, condition, and survival. And those are the ones that rewrite lives. This is why collectors don't just look, they inspect, they weigh, they magnify, they question everything. They know that the most dangerous coin is the one that looks ordinary at first glance. So the next time you see Lincoln staring back at you from a 1976 cent, don't dismiss it. Don't assume it's nothing. Ask the questions that separate spenders from finders. Is the strike perfectly centered? Do the letters look doubled or distorted? Does the coin feel heavier than it should? Does the color seem wrong for its year? Does it look a broken bar off? Because sometimes off is where the money is. This isn't about luck. It's about attention. It's about understanding that history doesn't announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows how to look. And here's the final truth that makes this story so powerful. You don't need to be rich to find a valuable coin. You just need to care enough to check. Somewhere out there, another 1976 Lincoln cent is waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. Not pocket change, not spare change, but the silent survivor of chaotic minting era. carrying a mistake that could be worth more than most people's homes. The only question left is simple: will you be the one who finds a broken bar or the one who spends it without ever knowing what slipped through your fingers?